Riverside. Some of you have had some real questions on how to make digital interactive notebooks. So hopefully this will help. I'll post absolutely everything for Jess into a new HyperDoc for you to be able to view. So first off, I have to give a shout out to Caitlin Underman. She showed me how to make these a couple years ago at a science teacher conference. Now, conceptual physics, this is the only way students submit work, and it's been amazing, especially checking in on their time management. So first off, digital learning, we're going to have to do it here, but in the future, you might want to consider it, especially for technology-based SOL questions. The students get used to that drag and drop feeling. They also get used to using things like a shape editor or charts and graphing. I found that a lot of them, even my seniors, have trouble with using PowerPoint, Excel, Word more formally. So this is also a way for them to work on that while I can do live commenting. Even while they're just sitting next to me, sometimes I can come in and add comments and they can see exactly what I'm talking about. So if you remember interactive notebooks from any other style of teaching, these are the same exact thing, and you can often use those same templates. If you just kind of look up digital interactive notebook, a lot of places still have templates. It's where I steal a lot of mine that you can still use. Move stuff over. A lot of things that I did was just make my PDFs of my worksheets into pictures and then embed them in the background and said have at it. So you don't have to get uber fancy. You can get as fancy or as not as you want. One of the biggest questions I get is how do students submit work? Most of my students do it in 3 different ways. A lot of yours will probably just type it directly into the slide. But since I'm physics, math, you might have the same issue. A lot of them need to be able to really write. So some students use the Equate.io software. And so then that you just bring it up, you type or write on the screen, and that turns the formulas into a picture that then you embed on the slide. Some of them write directly on it, and some of that is using the ink function. Some of that is using a Google Keep or Canva, Canva, any of those. The students kind of know what works for them. A lot of my kids with more processing where they really need to be off a screen. A lot of them have found success by printing the pages, as you can see here, writing, doing the work, and then just using the webcam that's already on their Chromebook and submit the work this way. So this is not using their phone, it's not using a scanner, they don't need another piece of equipment. Some of them do not even print the slides, some of them work in notebook paper. And then they just hold it up to the webcam and then crop the image and place it on the slide. So where it all started, so I'm going to show you around the interactive notebook that I developed with Caitlin when she was teaching us. And then I'll show you kind of an example in physics with a couple of different ways to do some slides. So here, it's essentially keep in mind that I have turned this to be portrait mode, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But anything on the sides will not print. So for example, here, when you have something like this, if my student was to print this out to work on it, okay, these answer choices will not print. So they would still need to have their device open to have the word bank, so to speak. If they were to have completed this, so place that here, then this would print, the others would be blank still. Anything that's actually on the slide would get printed. If you notice down here, and this is what makes it an actual HyperDoc for this situation, I've embedded a YouTube video that might help them. So right now I've turned the sound off so you don't hear it plus me. But for a student, this would be playing while they're working. When they're done and they go to the next slide, it does stop. So in the case of like my conceptual students, we have their notes over multiple pages. With the same YouTube video, just copy and paste it on each one. YouTube will to a good extent, kind of keep where they were as long as they pause before they move to the next one. It should pick up where they were. So there can be drag and drops. There can be more of the essay style. In this case, I gave them a drag and drop for this, but they didn't have to. So for example, if you wanted them to just type it, they could. Now, let's say I'm a student. I'm just doing this in a random order. No, I'm actually not, because that would drive me crazy if I put them in the wrong order. Do I have enough space? All right. So if you want to see what a student has worked on or what time they did something. So if your assignment was due April 1st, come up to help, search, and write history. Click on see version history. And you can see exactly what time something was worked on. See that green highlighting that you get on all the options? That is what they did during that version history. If you notice that a student did something incorrectly and you want them to wipe it. So for example, this is the only slide I worked on. If they worked on multiple slides, you might have them copy and paste their answers, but you can reset the version history for them, right? Hit restore this version and say try again. You can have more of the compare contrast, essay fill-ins, question response. Here's some graphic organizers while they watch some videos. More essays. Response to graphing. Essay. All right, some examples from what we actually do in our daily lives in physics. So these are just my already used worksheets. I just made them digital. I copy and pasted the text and put them in here, and then kind of reformatted it to fit on the screen. What my students are used to is if they have the same background, so you can see between these two, if they have the same background, then they're the same assignment. So for example, my students have to pick 2 out of the 3 activities. So they know if it's the same colored background, that actually they're linked together. See how this one's pink? So they know this is a different worksheet. And so any of them with the pink backgrounds are the same ones. So like here, I either require them to draw or, sorry, I had that there. They might need to use the object creator to make what they're looking at. Here, they might be able to insert a chart or a table, and that uses from Sheets directly in there. Also in here, if you want to, if you highlight a certain piece, come up here to the link. You could link with an external URL if they're supposed to grab their data from somewhere else. It goes actually pretty well, and it just opens a new tab, and they're able to go to other locations very, very fast. It's kind of the same thing for, there's one of them in here. Again, YouTube videos in the corner. Sometimes what I do on the sides is for here is their formulas. In this class, they're not required to memorize their formulas, only honors is, and not conceptual. But for example, here, some students find this to be helpful. Some students do not like these data charts. So I put it over here, and if they want it, they can move it over and then print, or move it over and then use it. If they don't want it, then they just leave it over here in the corner and they don't have to. So the biggest thing before you get started is going to be turning your paper into being portrait mode. So you have your open interactive notebook. You're going to hit File, Page Setup. Select Custom, 8.5 by 11, or whatever you would like. Hit Apply. Now it's portrait mode. Now what I do is, especially in like the notes, I add them to the background so that way the students can't mess with them, but that's up to you. Here is an example of a crossword puzzle that was put in. You can do this like I did, where it's a picture and drag and drop letters. You can also have them just create a text box and put in their word, put a couple spaces, drag and drop, and have them fit it. If they would like to do up and down, then they just obviously hit enter each time. And then kind of mess with the font and make sure it fits. Here is an example of one of those logic puzzles. So they have these whole scenario here, and they have to figure out who goes with what. They have a chart here, and so a lot of times if I say, okay, Jerry was not the 40, then they would hit an X. They would either put, some of them put smiley faces or something else in the ones that they were. And then they did the final calculation on to the side once they figured out who went with what. Another example is actually using a hyperlink inside the notebook. So here you can see that I have a URL. When students need to click twice, so they'll click on it, it'll open. Right here, they'll see the link. So now in this case, I made a digital escape room. So here they have their little story, they have a problem. It will not let them move on to the next room until they get it right. So I believe the answer is 4 in this case. Yay, I remembered the right number. And so then it just keeps going. They are not able to finish until they get them all right. And then at the last slide, I had them put in their name, and it emails me that they have it done. So this also works the same way if you would like them to include URLs. They're going to work the exact same way. Sorry, here's the new side. They're going to work the exact same way. All you do is hover over what's needed, come up and click the link, paste, hit apply. Now you have a hyperlink. If you need to get rid of it, click, hit the remove link. So thanks everyone. You guys know how to reach me. If you need any help, please feel free to reach out. I will create a new HyperDoc with all of these links, let you kind of muddle around some of the options, and create your own if you would like. Thanks guys.